Hello, motion users. My name's Muddy Gun. There's never been a strong presence on the internet talking about motion. There's tons for After Effects. There's tons for Cinema 4D, and I've always felt like there is an emptiness to motion. So I don't know exactly what this video series will be about, but I plan to create stuff, also talk about stuff that I would like motion to go towards, and also talk about how other programs connect to motion and how you can use them with motion. So hopefully this will be a fun video series. I plan on making about 30 minutes long, and I just kind of explore it as I go. So let's hop into it, shall we? So I'll go ahead and open up Motion here, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but it does take a while to load up if you have multiple effects in there. It's not too bad, but I don't have a lot. I assume other people have a ridiculous amount of loading time if they have a lot of plugins. The same goes for the Final Cut browser for plugins. So I'll just kind of go through some stuff. This isn't necessarily a beginner's tutorial, but since it's my first video, I kind of want to talk about stuff that might be new to somebody that's opening Motion. So this is what you're presented with, of course, the project browser. There's compositions, there's Final Cut effects, there's generators, there's transitions, and there's titles. All of those can be found in Final Cut as well if you're used to it. If you were ever wondering where they lived, they live in the user folder under movies and motion templates. So as you can see, compositions, Final Cut effects, generators, and so on and so on. So nice to be able to see a file format of it. Alright, well, let's blank in. I usually start with a blank motion project. My usual is 1920 by 1080, 29.97, 10 seconds, whatever. The basic one's usually pretty good. Let's open it. Yeah, so I'm just going to start creating stuff, but every once in a while I might talk about something that I would like to see happen in motion, and I would love to hear user comments about it, so please let me know what y'all think. Anyways, so let's start making stuff. Alright, I don't know exactly what I'm going to make, but let's start playing around. So I'm going to enter in some text, and I'll type in motion. Sure, why not? Something for me that I like to do is I like to go ahead and just put it in the center and zero everything out. And as you notice, it zeroes out to the bottom. It's left aligned. I've never been able to center it. Like vertical alignment does not fix the anchor point center, nor does anywhere else that I can find. Layout has some options, but as you can see, those are behavior controls. It doesn't really work in that aspect. So sometimes if I like it to be in the middle, I just move it and eyeball it. Let's make it a little bit bigger. How about 100? But see, as you can see, scaling from it, it doesn't really work. The anchor point, as you can see where the anchor point is, it is definitely not in the middle. But that would be something I would rather see in motion coming up. Like put the title or put the anchor point in the middle of the text instead of on the bottom. Just because rotation and even in 3D text, put it in the middle of the 3D. But that's just a personal preference, and I'm gonna make some notes here while I write down stuff. All right, so anyway, let's play around with this. First thing we can do is why don't we make a replicator out of it? So we'll go down here to replicators. You can also just press the keyword L, but I'll try to do as less key commands as I can. So we'll go to replicator and Sorry. Replicator is this guy. All right, L. And it defaults to rectangle tile fill. You can use these nice little HUD controls. Another reason I like Motion over After Effects is they have great HUD control movement, if you ask me. Let's go to something a little more manageable. 3x3. I'll take away the grid lines. Let me get rid of those real quick. If you've ever wanted to get rid of the grid lines, go to Overlays, and you can just say Grid. And now you just have your HUD for the replicator as well. So something cool we can do is maybe we can flash each line and make them flash on and off. So one way to do that would be make a sequence replicator. Sequence replicator goes through all different types of things. So you would say opacity would be the one you would want to do. And right now, if you play it, of course, you would be like, oh, nothing's really happening. Another thing that's nice about Motion is you can play things on the fly. So how about I just put that opacity to 0, which would make it invisible, and press play, see what, oh, I don't have it on loop. Press play and see what happens. So as you can see, it looks like it's going from the center outside to the outside. So you're not going to be able to change that in Sequence Replicator, but you can change it in the replicator. So let's do top, and that's a little bit more of what I wanted. Now, as you can see, it goes through it, and it's all based on the time of how long this pink line is, or purple line. So, of course, if I shorten the purple line, say to maybe half the duration, 5 seconds, then it should go quicker to go through that line. And as you can see, it does, and then it pops right back in. Another way to go shorten these is you can press Alt point as long as you're selected on it. So I'll go to the end timeline, make it there, start playing it again, and let's see, sequencing 2. Let's see what from does. Okay, looks like it does the opposite. And through, kind of similar, but as you can see, now there's one line that it goes through, and then through inverted, which would be the opposite of through, and it just shows one line the whole time. So let's keep it on 2, and let's add some spread, maybe 5. And that's kind of like a fall off or a fade on each one. It doesn't have a hard cutoff. It kind of fades in between them, making it looking a lot more natural. But it still pops. I'd like to see it go through it 5 times. I want to see it loop through this 5 times, and that way it makes it a little bit faster. But I don't really like the dun dun hard cut. There's a way to fix that. You can do wrap. That's one way. And as you can see, what wrap does is it kind of just goes through the motions. If I take down that spread, then it makes a little more sense of what it does. But it's really quick. So let's take that back up to 1. That makes a little more sense. But for this, I think ping pong would work the best. And you'll see why I think it works the best, because then it goes back and forth like that. It looks a little bit more natural. You can also increase it to 10. Making it a little bit more interesting. How about let's just go to 50. Yeah, so as you can see, some kind of fun effects. I still don't like the way it's traversing through it. I'd kind of like it to cycle through. And there is a way to do that. Give me a second. I have to remember. Maybe it's through. Let's go down to 10. And let's go to wrap. There we go. And essentially what's happening is through is seeing it, it's really hard to explain actually, but through is, with 2, it was starting from the beginning again, but through kind of saw it through the whole thing. So that makes a little sense why they would use that word. So So there's a lot of different things we can do with Replicator. We don't have to just have it be one color. Let's go ahead and do a colorize. Let's see what that does. All right, it did nothing, but it did give me a color option. How about we go with just a go with a crayon and pick color you like. This blue, this purple. Man, I'm getting my purples off. Looks pretty nice. Okay, but how about let's add a little glow to it. See what kind of glows we can get out of it. And we'll go with glint. That's a new one that came by. As you can see, even the default looks pretty decent. Looks a little neon signish. I'm digging it. I'm going to slow it down because this will be on the web and it'll probably look trash. So how about we go to 5 loops in 10 seconds. That's a little bit better. And you'll find the glint under filters. And, you know, just start messing with the settings. And as you can see, you get a whole bunch of things. You can tint it a different color. The glint size and all kinds of stuff. This is a great glow effect. I mean, you can get a little ridiculous with it, of course. It's going to look like trash. But tons of stuff you can do to it. And it starts to look like... I'm just increasing the intensity. Starts to look a little bit Hollywoodish. Kind of neat. Make the glint size a little bit smaller. There we go. And fades on. It's a pretty nice effect. I dig it. Other things you can do with a replicator, you can change all the angles pretty randomly. Kind of looks like trash, but pretty neat. And anytime you do anything random, the generate seed here at the bottom will change everything. So always look out for that. We'll get rid of that though. Go back to 0 on angle randomness. You can change all the angles together. You can change the angle end. Some other great things you do, you don't have to make it a rectangle. Let's go ahead and turn off sequence replicator and the glint and see what kind of shapes we can make out of this. Let's try circle. So circle right now is on tile fill and it usually doesn't look that good on tile fill. So what I like to do is go to outline. And there we go. That looks a little bit more better. I wonder what offset does. So it just kind of moves through it in a circular fashion. I think that's pretty cool. A line angle is something else that's pretty cool. You can make it go around in a circle. If you're ever wondering why it's worded in a weird different way, you can always flip it to go the other way. That's one way of doing it. There's literally probably 3 other ways to do it. But that's one way to do it. Angle it around. I'm going to undo that. But something I've always wanted is, as you notice, this isn't really a circle but a hexagon. And even if you increase the points, it starts to look like a circle, kind of, with the more points. But the words don't necessarily make a circle. I know this would be hard to do, but it would be nice if the motion team would be able to make it to where the words curve with the path that they're on. Not necessarily for Replicator is it important, but it's definitely a little bit more seen. So I'll copy this text. Let's hide the Replicator right now. So if I go into motion and I go into, let's say I make a circle with my little shape tool. So if I hold shift and option, it'll create a circle from the middle and expand out. So the best way to make a circle and not an oval of some sort. And I'll get rid of the fill. I'll make an outline. I'll make it a thick outline. How about that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into motion and I'm going to go to layout and go to path. And path of course has its own options, but geometry is the one where it's like, oh, you made something. So that's usually what geometry means in motion. I click on it, it's got a little image well, and all I gotta do is move my shape source into there. And looks pretty good. as you can see, it floats around. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool, you know. But let's make this text. Let's make it with some capital L's and maybe a O and a something with the line at the bottom. So LLORGB, whatever, OGB, and let's make this circle a little bit thinner, maybe like 1. And let's go ahead and increase that text size, really huge, really huge. All right, so as you can see, it follows the circle very well, but there's still some edge there, you know, where it's like, oh, okay, that's just, it's going straight with the L. And this is what I'm talking about. It would be nice to have a feature that bends the text to the curve. Maybe I'm being picky, but I think it'd be nice. Another thing you can see, I'll make this a little bit bigger so y'all can see it, is the words get bajiggity after a certain while. This happens a lot with me, and I don't know exactly what explains it, but what I'm pretty sure is happening is there is a edge, and it's a finite edge. This is not a, even though it is a vector because motion is vector based. It's like the words don't follow a vector, but they follow a point on the vector line, and it will jump. And especially when you're animating it, it comes to be a problem quite often, and it'll get bajiggity. But you can go inside the shape or outside the shape or inside. You don't have to align to the path, so you get some nice effects there. Although they don't always look that good, but usually I like to keep it like that. But yeah, that's something I've always wanted. Alright, so let's get out of this. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to delete my circle. Go back to my replicator. As you can see, that the idea of having it curve with the circle would be nice. But whatever. We'll go to another one. Let's see, burst. Of course, this doesn't work really good with text, but even getting an angle can get you some pretty interesting effects. Lowering the points per arm, and the number of arms. So offsetting it would get you some pretty cool things. Something I don't play with burst that much. I've really yet to use it. I'd love to see how other people use it. Spiral's another one that I don't usually use that often. I know text is a horrible example of doing it, showing it, but it's still something I don't really use that often. Of course, if you see it at angle 0, it's a little bit more spirally. Wave is a great one. Of course, this has HUD controls, so we will go to the HUD controls, which is adjust item, and look at that. If you, well, I guess if you don't hold shift, it doesn't stay in one axis, but whatever. And you can make the amplitude even higher. Of course, this is another one that does not curve with the curve, so you're kind of left at the mercy of the text object. The frequency points it out even more. Looking pretty bad. Of course, I could always make the text smaller, but whatever. And you can just kind of go through the frequency. It's pretty neat. But I've been able to get a lot of cool effects out of Wave. Really good one. And geometry and image we could talk about another day. Not a big deal. So we will let's see what we can do with Replicator. But instead of using text, let's use a circle. All we got to do is change it there, and now we have a circle. And let's put a lot of these puppies on there. Points. Let's just get tons. And it looks decent, but it doesn't look great. I'll hide that circle. But something that makes stuff look good is additive blend. And a very cool effect. You can also increase the amount of points to get even more drastic effects. It starts to look like a pen to an extent. You can give some scale randomness if you're wanting to. It'll kind of look like a gaseous blob. Scale end, to kind of look like a wisp. You know, like something you drew on. Of course, you start to see the little dots, so you'd have to add more points to get rid of those. But pretty neat stuff. I'll put that back to 100, so it's the same. But one thing I like to do is we can go back into the sequence replicator, and let's see what that looks like when we play through it. As you can see, it's nothing because it's going through and there's only one. So how about we do from? Okay. Looking good. Looks like it's being written on. But if you spread it, you should be able to get a very neat feathering effect. And very cool. And something else I'd like to do is put this to go outside of the edge. Another helpful hint, if you press Shift V, you will be able to see outside of the screen. So that way you know what's going on. But let's turn Shift V off, and now it looks like it's just looping, which is very nice. Let's do a little bit more with it. How about that through inverted again? So now that looks a little bit more clean. It looks like it's just flowing through, maybe an energy current of some sort. You can do a lot of effects with that. Even adding that glint back on, well, ridiculous. Let's not screw with it too much. Let's make it a little bit less drastic. How about reset all of it? Start off with what we got. Okay, and let's lower the glow amount. Or not the glow amount, but the, I guess the exposure. Yeah, it's exposure. Very cool. We can change the tint. We can add some streaks to it. Glow amount. Color intensity. A little ridiculous. I'm undoing a lot if you're wondering what the hell's going on. But very cool. Very cool effects. But this is something I've always liked about motion over After Effects. I'm just able to do a lot of different things with while I'm able to play. Like, I never get a slowdown. It's very rare that I get a slowdown. And After Effects has gotten a little bit better in that field. But motion's just been able to always do it. Of course, After Effects has a lot more things you can do with it, and we can talk about that another day. But very cool things that you can do with Replicator. Let's explore some other things that we can do with it. One that I like to do is let's try a box. This time a box. So we're replacing it, and you can have two replicators actually, but we'll just do the box for now. And we'll go back to rectangle. Oh, that looks kind of cool too. Turn off glint. That's what's slowing us down. And there's literally 1,000 of these things. We can go back to 200 and see it. Oh, that has a great pixel effect, honestly, on the edges. I don't know if y'all see that, but a very cool pixel effect. Let's lower the spread. Yeah. All right. Anyways, if you put this in grid mode or tile fill, and let's ump it up to about 20 by 20, and put the HUD back on, go to adjust item, and make it fill the whole screen. Now, I kind of like to be precise about this. I won't be precise today, but if you do the math, you have a 1920 by 1080 frame. You can make a pixel like 1920 by 1080. Actually, let's just go ahead and do that. This is a good learning thing. So what I'll do is I'll go in here and I'll do 1920 divided by 2, which is 960, and 1080 divided by 2 is 540. So now you have literally the size of the screen. Oh, actually, 1920 by 1080. Okay. So it was always that. I gotcha. And so now you have the scale of the whole frame itself. Now if you put it in Replicator, of course it'll be huge. But then what you can do is scale it down here, and you now have, well, you also have to go do here the same thing, 1920 by 1080. And of course put it at 0, 0. But now you can just scale it up, and I use the arrows through it, and get perfect size 5.3, 5.2. It's a little bit off, but it gets close to that. And what you can do then is, let's say spread it out less. We'll go 2. And instead of going from the top down, we'll go from the center. And we won't loop. And we can have a pretty cool transition. I'll make it a little bit shorter because it's kind of ridiculous. But it's kind of a transition. So another way to do this is actually make it 2 loops, and then you'll want it to ping pong. And what it should do, if you put it on from, start from the beginning and then ping pong out, and there you have a transition. And let's say you want like a 0, and we'll end that so it doesn't pop back on, but maybe even quicker than that. How about 15? Half a second. So there is a neat little thing. We can get rid of the additive blend, and pretty cool effect. You could always make it a little bit bigger, or the scale of it, and get rid of some of that weird lines and overlap stuff. But very neat. Another thing that you would want to try and do is like, well, maybe I want to go, let's see, right, top, bottom. Yeah, I don't think you can come from the outside. Another great way to wipe through, but instead this time what I would do is don't put a loop on it, and foof, and of course you'll want to do through again, and then it'll, or actually through inverted, and you got yourself a little wipe, your own interesting wipe. You can always screw with stuff now. You can go into the rectangle and make it a little rounder, give it a little identity. Maybe you wanted to have a more soft edge. You can also feather the rectangle in style, give it a little feathering, and now it kind of has a blurry transition to it. Slowing down, surprisingly. I guess I have a lot in there. I didn't think I did, but maybe I do. 20 by 20, yeah, no, that's pretty serious. 20 by 20, so yeah, that's 400 of those rectangles going slashing on. And of course, when you put the blur on, or the fall off, the feather, that's going to increase. That's going to increase the speed of it as well. We're getting by to the end of here, and I know this is a rough first one, but hopefully I'll get better at it. I plan on doing this about once every 2 weeks, and I would like to really just make a community out of it. Motion it feels like it's dying, and maybe this is a last-ditch effort to try and save it. I think it's a great program, and I think Apple could give it a strong future if they really wanted to. The last thing they added major was 3D text, and that was even in Final Cut, so you kind of wonder if that was meant for Motion or Final Cut. Does that mean the team, did the Final Cut team build it, or did the Motion team build it? And that's always been my curiosity. I definitely believe they're pushing Final Cut Pro to to the level they want to, but Motion just seems to have no team involved, or if they do, maybe 2 people. But I'd hate to lose the program. And they're about to have an update to the Pro apps, and hopefully Motion will get a big update. If it doesn't, then this video series might be short-lived, because I might have to go to After Effects. And I already use After Effects. It's a great program. I just like the simplicity of Motion. I've been able to make a lot of great projects off of this program. And please leave your comments below. I'd like to see what y'all think about it, and we can talk about other topics. I'll for each video I'll put in the feature requests that I would like to see in Motion, and maybe y'all can see what y'all think and agree with them. Okay? Well, I hope y'all have a great day, and talk to you later.